Thank you, Whittaker. What an excellent choice Whittaker made once again for this morning's topic. We are continuing for the second week in a row, at least the second week in a row, delving into our seventh UU principle, which deals with the interdependent web of all existence. That song is very much in keeping with that, entitled The Wordless Mountains Bravely Still. Thank you, Whittaker. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Columbus, and welcome to this gorgeous garden. I'd like to give a big thanks to Hal and many others who helped Hal, but Hal in particular for his leadership. For those of you who are around when we first came on this property, this was a pool right here where Hal is sitting. You know, the policeman had kind of a country club for policemen here at the FOP Lodge, and the pool had been filled in with dirt, but it had settled down, so there's about a foot step off into the dirt, and Hal has really transformed this into a fantastic garden. And we've been wanting to do a service out here for a long time, and what a great opportunity to do it. So thank you, Hal, and thank you folks for coming. I hope you find that UUFC is an inclusive spiritual community of people who support each other in their personal searches for truth and meaning. I'm Ron Ussery. I'm your volunteer service leader. Hal Majit, our president, is your speaker today. Hal is speaking on Entangled Life. Today's reading is by Danielle Neale, and Whittaker Locke will offer more music as well, of course. We have some announcements, beginning with some Zoom instructions. If you folks on Zoom are concerned or would not want to have your picture, your thumbnail picture on a YouTube video posted to the web or not on Zoom, then we invite you to mute your camera at this point, or to shut down your camera, and you won't be included on the internet in case there's some outstanding warrants for you, people looking for you. We do have a few announcements. John Nix, I believe you have one. We have a microphone over here. It's springtime, so it's time for John Nix to be selling something, right?
Yeah, it's that time of year again. The Kiwanis Club of Greater Columbus sells Vidalia onions every year to raise
Excuse me,
funds.
John, if you'll pick that mic up and hold it to your mouth, you might have a little better result. Thank you.
All right. The Kiwanis Club of Greater Columbus sells onions every year to raise funds for various youth groups. These are all local charities, and all of the profits go to support these groups. And you all have been kind enough to give me orders from time to time. What'll happen is we'll deal with the farmer directly in Vidalia, and he'll deliver onions to us. We expect this year on May 17th. And shortly after that, they'll be available for you to pick up or for me to deliver. So if you're interested, please sign the list, and we'll take it from there. You don't pay for it until we deliver them. There's a $10 bag and a $22 bag, I think 10 and 25 pounds respectively. So thank you, Ron, for letting me make up my pitch.
John, show us that handy dandy microphone there, will you? If you want to model it like Vanna White.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We keep improving our AV capability with David and Bill, always trying to step up our game a bit, even though they're doing a fantastic job already. So this is the latest edition, this handheld wireless microphone, keep them having all the wires everywhere.
Looks great.
We can pass that around. Thank you. Thank you. Other announcements? I know next week's program is from Rick Spradlin. You may not believe me because I said that last week, and I was wrong. I got that backwards. Rick, you have anything to say about next week's program? Yes, Rick. I think I probably.
Socrates said, "Know thyself." And it's been said that we were born in this world alone, and someday we will leave it alone. But that time in between we're not really alone. We live with this stranger who lives inside ourselves, our true self, the hardest person you'll ever meet to get to know. So next week, my talk will be the difficulty and the importance of getting to know your true self. Thank you.
Super, great. That should take on about 5 minutes.
Taking me 56 years so far.
David, we start our services by lighting our chalice, which symbolizes reason, tolerance, and freedom, and also justice, compassion, and love. And I'll light it. I'm not sure it'll stay lit, but we'll give it a try. Okay, maybe I won't light it. Finally worked.
Let's go with simulated. Okay.
Got it. Oh, I meant to mention in the announcements that we got in the mail here at the office. If somebody wants to, the first person can claim this bumper sticker or window sticker, Restore Voting Rights from the Southern Poverty Law Center. If anybody wants that, I'll leave it up here on this table and you can pick it up. I don't do bumper stickers because they're too hard to get off, but that one is certainly one I would support. And we had a lost item was found in the parking lot, which is a metal necklace with some little turquoise bits. It also will be up here in case anybody recognizes this. Okay, let's now affirm our 7 principles that sum up the core values of Unitarian Universalism. If you have them, you can read them along with me as I read them aloud. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Number 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Number 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Number 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And number 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Now let's move on to our joys and concerns. If you have one, you might want to come up and get the mic, or I can circulate it and bring it to you if you like. One of the ways we proclaim the vitality of our fellowship is through sharing brief and personal joys and concerns. Please note that this is not a time for announcements or commercials or politics. Rather, it's a time to share what's important in our own lives. I'll start by lighting a candle for sorrows and concerns you might not want to share in public. Anyone? Well, I have one or two that I can start off with while you're thinking. Connie is not here today. Jan Hyatt is a good friend of Connie's and in her singing trio, and Jan is having some surgery done tomorrow at Emory. So Connie and Jan left early this morning to head up to Atlanta or Decatur. So they'll be having surgery. I had a few remarks on my outfit here. Connie would probably have vetoed this outfit had she been home when I was getting ready this morning, but she wasn't here, so I got to wear what I wanted to. Any other announcements? Excuse me, joys and concerns. Rick, let me bring you the mic.
Brenda sent out an email this past week that one of our members, Neil Barron, was looking for a shelter. He is now living in Parkwood Nursing Home in Phoenix City. For the next 2 weeks, he's in quarantine just to make sure he doesn't have COVID. After that, he'll be able to receive visitors. I picked him up a cell phone yesterday and dropped that off for him, and he's called me, so we know the number works. If anyone would like to make contact with him, I can give you his cell phone number. I'm sure he wouldn't mind, or we could arrange a visitation in about 2 weeks. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else with a joy or concern? I have a joy while you're thinking about something. A joy to share with you, and that's I've been looking forward to today's program that Hal's going to be providing. one of my passions is collecting and identifying and, if possible, eating fungi, mushrooms in particular. Hal's topic is much broader than just fungi. I see Chris is nodding her head. I was taught a bit about identifying mushrooms and preparing them by another German, a former friend and business associate of mine who lived outside of Stuttgart. And Reiner, my friend, taught me. We went. He introduced me to mushroom gathering in the Black Forest, where we gathered lots and lots of mushrooms. And then he's visited me twice. He visited me once in the foothills of the Appalachians when I lived in Greenville, South Carolina, and he visited me again in Pine Mountain. We were walking at Paris Mountain State Park in Greenville, outside of Greenville, and there was other people there. It was a beautiful spring day, much like this. And Reiner stopped me, and he had this very serious look on his face, and he said, "Ron, don't look now, but at the 2 o'clock position from where you're standing, there is a wonderful crop of morels, which is a very rare and wonderful delicacy." So I looked, and he said, no, don't look now. There are people around. I said, "Reiner, nobody cares. We're not in the Black Forest." And he says, no, you mustn't look, because you can come back to this spot time and again and gather these wonderful mushrooms, and I'll teach you how to prepare them. So we waited till everybody passed. I don't think it mattered. We went over and collected these wonderful morels, and they were truly delicious. And so I continue today to identify a few mushrooms, many of which I'm pretty sure about. I've even asked Chris to confirm some identification a couple of times on some of these, but they are, for me, a fresh mushroom, like oyster mushrooms that Hal's going to talk about a little bit here, that I brought some samples of. We prepare them, stir fry them in a little butter with some fresh thyme and some fresh rosemary, with maybe some onion and garlic, and they are wonderful. So a real joy of mine is looking forward to Hal's talking about all sorts of fungi. Anyone else with a joy or concern? Okay. Anyone else in the virtual audience, David? Okay. We will move on then to our celebration of life toast. And of course, I see 1 or 2 drinks, but I didn't bring one myself. We'll have to have our virtual drinks. Our celebration of life toast is unique to this fellowship, and we do it a little differently with our Zoom audience. You can join in with your cup of coffee or another beverage. Our toast carries no doctrinal symbolism. It's not a sacrament. It's simply a warm tradition written by our own Ed Wilson, and we invite you to share it with us. So please lift your cups. I'll read the toast, and we'll all join together in the last line. We celebrate life with its beauty and its pain. We lift these cups in tribute to the achievements of human minds and hands, and sensitivity to the frustrations of misfortune and heartache, not fixing blame or credit for the outcome of chance, sensing the risk, savoring the joy, sharing it all, knowing of the certainty of death, and remembering the value of each moment. We drink our toast of celebration to this time, to the future, to each other, to the throbbing of the earth and sea and sky with life. Together, we drink this toast in celebration of life. Now, I didn't prearrange, but if I could get a volunteer or 2 for the offering. I have the baskets here. Great. I got Chris and yeah, there we go. This morning's offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. You can mail offerings to UUFC at our P.O. Box 698, Fortson, Georgia 31808, or use PayPal. On PayPal, you hit send money and put as the recipient or email address our identification, which is uufcga@gmail.com. uufcga@gmail.com. And Whittaker is going to play for us the offertory. If I can make this out, it's well over my head, is a Beethoven Allegretto for piano sonata in E major.
Do I didn't bring you a chair.
And that's Whittaker Locke, accompanied by Mother Nature. I see a few of you are scrounging around for some shade. There's not much escape to shade here, is there? I do see that Pat Hart has one surface that's fairly safe. The black surface back there is not real level. So the nearest surface to the concrete is sloped down, and we're a little bit afraid of that surface, but then it slopes back up, and back where Michelle's sitting, those areas are pretty fairly safe, I think. So if you want to scrounge around a little bit to get some shade, you might go back there where it's slanted downward or fairly flat. Okay, now we have our reading. We have a reading. I think it's pre-recorded. Is that right, David? For us, Danielle Neale, a member of ours who is a very active member living in Puxatawny, Pennsylvania, due to the magic of the internet and Zoom. And Danielle provided an appropriate reading for us at this point.
Thank you for that introduction. Today, I would like to share with you a poem called Nature by Henry David Thoreau. O nature, I do not aspire to be the highest in thy choir, to be a meteor in the sky, or comet that may range on high. Only a zephyr that may blow among the reeds by the river low. Give me thy most privy place, where to run my airy race. In some withdrawn unpublic mead, let me sigh upon a reed, or in the woods with leafy din, whisper the still evening in. Some still work give me to do, only be it near to you. For I'd rather be thy child and pupil in the forest wild, than be the king of men elsewhere, and most sovereign slave of care, to have one moment of thy dawn, then share the city's year forlorn. Thank you, and I hope you get out and enjoy nature today. Maybe go for a walk on our nature trail or go enjoy the creek.
Thank you, Danielle. Great. Now for our Sunday talk. Hal Majit has been a member of UUFC since, for about 9 years now. He retired from working as a middle school science teacher about 2013. He is currently serving in his second term as UUFC president. And he also serves on the board of trustees, of course, for this fellowship. So you can see that he believes dearly in our mission in this community and in UU's mission in the nation. Hal?
Thank you, Ron. I just love it out here. I didn't think I'd be the person speaking. I envisioned actually Rick being here. When I designed this, it was about us being able to be outside and enjoying nature, which is our 7th principle. This hat, the first time I've worn it, it's my father's hat. I have pictures of him wearing it. He was a consummate gardener. He was always in the yard, and I was the one who picked weeds out of the yard and picked pebbles out of the beds, buckets of them. But I just had to put this on because we knew that it was going to be really bright out here. So let me continue. Okay, some of the reasons I joined this fellowship was because, one, the people were curious. They wanted to learn, and they wanted to share their knowledge. And so I'm happy at my age, and 73 and a half, that, to quote Seneca, I am still learning. And today I have something to share with you that I have recently learned. Some of the vocabulary, I say fungi, you say fungi, you say tomato, I say potato. We're not going to call the whole thing off. So there are different pronunciations for these, and they're all correct. At least when they're coming out of my mouth, they are. Okay. I'm a little anxious about this presentation because in my family, extended family, whenever I went to say something, people would put up the timeout sign, and they would always say, "You're killing me with science." And so I'm always a little bit timid about getting into this type of thing because some people don't really care for the science, but I guess I've lived it my whole life, except for the brief 22 years in the service in the Army when I didn't do too much science. I was the type of kid who liked dinosaurs. A fond memory is one Christmas when I got my first microscope, my dad cut his hand really badly. And all I could do is think about getting a slide of blood so I could look at it on my microscope. And my parents never looked at me the same since. So in the Army, the only time I really read in science is the US Army had a Foreign Science and Technology Center that published a journal of scientific things from around the world. And I always got a copy of that. So I did stay in touch. The thread of my presentation goes back 25 years when I read E.O. Wilson's Biodiversity. He created that name, biodiversity. And in there, he talked about mycorrhizal fungus and or fungi. And in that, he said that it connected the trees and that it was under stress. And if it died, we would die, to something to that nature, to paraphrase him. And it caught my attention, but then I didn't think about it much more. So fast forward 24 and a half years, and I was reading this email. It's a daily email called Delancey Place, and they take an excerpt from nonfiction books. It can be history, economics, science. And the one that I was reading was by Merlin Sheldrake, and it was called Entangled Life. And I read it. This excerpt was about how 450 million years ago, algae and fungi formed up to make lichen. And this is an example of lichen here. It was a great mutualism. The algae could extract carbon dioxide and with photosynthesis make carbohydrates. The fungi couldn't do that. But it could, using its abilities, extract nutrients from bare rock. And they would exchange these. That 450-year-old is still going on today. But the best part about this is when the lichen died, it made soil. And it's that soil that enabled plants to creep onto land. And everything changed. Okay, so I read this and immediately I bought the book. And after the first few pages, I fell right into the kingdom of fungi. I couldn't wait to share it with somebody. Then Bill said, I need somebody to present on this day. And I said, I got something. And I couldn't wait to spread the spores of fungal information among you. This is part of our seventh principle, the respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are part. And I think you'll see that it even goes deeper than that. Our survival as a species depends not just on respect for this web of life, but on understanding and nurturing it, not just exploiting it. For some of you, I'm sure the idea, as Ron has said, you're salivating when I talk about fungi and buttered champignons on steak, and others about truffles in an expensive meal. Okay, there are other ways in which fungi intersects the human path. Beer, bread, wine, soy sauce, yeast is a fungus. And we forget about that. Also, you can think of another fungus would be athlete's foot, thrush, mold, and mildew. It's very versatile. And with every breath you take, you're breathing in fungal spores, whether you like it or not. They apparently do not like us. Okay, however, the focus of my talk is on other fungal facts that I found fascinating, mainly how our very survival is connected to fungi. First, fungi are not plants, but actually closer to the kingdom of Animalia. Who would have guessed? Yes, I'm well aware. Some of you, I look out here and you say, we learned about the kingdom of fungi in botany. No, they're not plants. Okay, according to some sources, there are up to 5 million species of fungi. And it's hard, it could be an undercount because the study of mycology, which is the study of fungus, is not a well-sponsored area of study. Actually, only about 150,000 have been described and documented. Of those, 8,000 are detrimental to plants, and only 300 are pathogenic to humans. Well, that's not bad out of 5 million. Fungi are literally everywhere, on every continent, in every ocean, under the seafloor, all over humans, to include in our belly buttons. There's a honey fungus living in Oregon that is 3.4 miles across. It's the largest living organism in the world. And according to some, at 9,000 years old, it's also the oldest one. That's fascinating to me. Another fun fact, fungi are used to make termite-proof building blocks because termites can't digest the cell walls of fungi because they're made of chitin. Same stuff on insect exoskeletons. Even cows need fungi to digest the grass. They eat the grass, but they need things to digest it so they can metabolize it. And fungi accounts for 50% of that digestion that they have. Cows go away without fungi. Some fungi actually hunt nematodes. They have these hyphae that move around and out. Nematodes are small worm-like organisms that live within the soil. There are others that hunt springtail, which are similar to earwigs. They're an ancient insect, and they hunt them for their nitrogen, which they pass on to plants. One fungus species takes over the bodies of a certain species of ant. They don't take over the brain, they take over the body, and they make it go up onto a leaf out over an ant trail at a specific spot. And they found this in fossil records because you can see where it bites into the leaves. And then the fungus comes out and spreads spores down on the ants below, starting the cycle anew. Who would have guessed you had carnivorous fungus? The leafcutter ant, which E.O. Wilson studied. The leafcutter ant of South America, they have about a 30 million year old relationship with fungus. And they cut the leaves. I've seen them in Panama, moving the little leaves along when I was at jungle school, to an underground cavern where they feed it to the fungus, where it's composted. Then the fungus is fed to the larval stage of the ant. Native Americans used a large fungus, up to 30 pounds, to make flour for tortillas. They also use some fungus that you see for anticoagulants, that it actually will stop the bleeding. Some fungus you can put embers in, and the embers will last up to 3 days and still be viable, so they could move fire with them when they went places. And of course, there's always the so-called magic fungi, which people talk about, and they have been used for thousands of years. There are statues in Guatemala that are 4,000 years old that attest to the magic mushroom's role in some ancient societies. And it's becoming more relevant today, actually. Some of Earth's first terrestrial colonists were fungi. They moved from the oceans onto bare land up to 470 million years ago. One species, the prototaxite, was up to 3 feet across and up to 28 feet tall. If you can imagine a mushroom as tall as a telephone pole, but I don't think they had the top. Okay, about 450 million years ago also, fungi moved onto land with algae, and it made that symbiotic relationship I mentioned earlier, and it's known as lichen, and these are examples of it here. As a dynamic duo, the lichen could extract minerals directly from the rock, and the algae, the fungus, could extract directly from the rock, and the algae could create carbohydrates through photosynthesis. Together, they did spread across the terrestrial world. The story of fungi is even stranger and more mysterious. They found rocks that are 1 billion years old up in Northwest Canada that have fungi fossils in them. And this is 500 million years old before they thought fungi actually came on the land. So looking back in time is really muddied because it's difficult to read the fossils, and fungi don't leave good fossils. Often I sit at my kitchen window and I look and I'm amazed because I have a rock wall that is covered in lichen. And I think this is a 400 million year old relationship that has been successful. Well, not necessarily. It's for us, you can eat some of the lichen. It's used by a lot of herbivores in northern areas that are covered by snow in the winter because they can get to the lichen and eat it. But after the lichen covers more surface area than all the trees in the subtropical forest do. It's hard to believe, but if you look around any tree here, you will see lichen on it. I have branches, this all across the branches, it's everywhere. So when I read that, I started noticing it everywhere. And it just fascinates me. It's some of the toughest organisms on Earth. They can live at high altitudes, they can live at the coldest climates. They can live right along the shore of the ocean with lots of salt. And mainly, to me, the intriguing thing, they're the only complex organism that can actually live prolonged outer space. The harshness of it with the radiation. They're just amazing. We're familiar with fungus on a log as a mushroom and on the ground as a mushroom, but we can't see the amazing world of fungi below the earth. We just don't have that ability, but it's essential to us. A mushroom is like a flower on a tree, but the tree is below ground. Okay, the below ground part is called mycelium, and it's made up of these hyphae, which are little snake-like things. And if you pick up some of these mushrooms up here and you look and you'll see fine white hairs. They're real fine. That's the hyphae. Okay, they reach out and they probe the world. The most fascinating fungi to me are the mycorrhizal fungi, because they are in many ways one of the major foundations of life on Earth. Between 80 and 90% of all plant species depend on mycorrhizal fungi to survive. I wouldn't have known that. It's going on all around us. This vital relationship between these special fungi and plants took hundreds of millions of years to develop, all the way back to when plants first came out of the water and were little more than green blobs without roots. Again, about 450 million years ago. The fungi, in this case, formed up with the early plants which did not have roots, and the hyphae acted as roots, getting nutrients and water and feeding it to the plant. The relationship continues. The plants develop more roots, but the fungi has still been there. Some figure it took 50 million years for it to really establish itself. As the plants gradually developed the roots, the relationship remained. The hyphae are about 50 times thinner than the finest plant root. Gives you an idea how small they are, and can extend up to 100 times further than the roots. And they bring nutrients in exchange with a tree. The hyphae continually probe, moving in and out 10 to 60 times a year, and they branch off looking for nutrients and trees and other things, always in touch with the environment. Some species hyphae actually extend into the plant cell, right into the cell. Others just go into the root or around the root. The hydraulics of the hyphae can generate up to 1,200 pounds per square inch, and they've been known to actually pop out to asphalt. So they're amazing. Fungi, in a series of experiments done with radioactive elements, scientists determined that some plants can be in a relationship with up to 15 different mycorrhizal fungus species at the same time. And fungi can be in relationships with different plants at the same time, even different species. So you can have different trees related with other trees, and they're connected with this mycorrhizal fungi. Okay, some people call this relationship the wood wide web. There is a lot of trading of carbon, carbohydrates, lipids, nutrients, and waters. Plants even provide carbon to saplings through these mycorrhizal fungi. Between 1/3 and 1/2 of all living things in the soil is this mycorrhizal fungi. That's an amazing fact. It's everywhere, and we didn't know it. Not only do plants trade materials, but they even communicate through this living web. It has been demonstrated that plants can alert other plants to invading pests using this network. And some plants even emit a chemical to lure predators to this pest. And it's all connected underground. Reading Entangled Life prompted me to appreciate what I couldn't see, but what I walk on every day. I taught high school biology and thought I had a fairly decent grasp on the complexity of life. I have been a fan of E.O. Wilson's books, especially those relating to myrmecology, the study of ants. For those Game of Thrones fans, when Ygritte said, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," a foreshadowing statement, that could be me instead of Jon Snow. I know nothing. Suddenly realizing how little I know of something so big that is everywhere around me, but I can't see it. I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't know all of this sooner. After reading Merlin Sheldrake's great book, I read Mushrooms of the Southeast, a field guide, in an effort to appreciate the fungal diversity of my yard. For years, instead of throwing all my yard waste away, I placed it where it would compost. Now I have started cutting fallen branches into smaller pieces to make more surface area for my newly found fungal friends to enjoy and to share with my trees around me. Gaia, the goddess of the earth, just might be a fungus. To experience the fungal world, all you have to do is go out into the woods, kneel down, scrape away the leaves until you get to the dark soil, and then look really, really closely, and you'll see these white filaments. These are the hyphae that are spreading through the forest floor beneath you. You found the wood wide web that connects to the plants and fungi around you. To tap in, just open your mind. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, hold your questions just for a moment, and we'll have those coming up in just a little bit. I know I have some. Remember that after the service and Whittaker's final hymn, which comes in just a moment, we'll end the recorded part of our program and we'll join each other off camera for a Q&A. We extinguish the chalice, but I'm not sure that's going to be easy to do, that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. I'll give it a try.
Look what you started.
Okay. That worked. But everyone please rise in body or spirit for our closing words. With unity of spirit, we go our ways in universal fellowship until we meet again. We have our closing hymn from Whittaker, who reminds me, I'm getting old here. This land of bursting sunrise. Thank you, Whittaker.